Welcome back to the Cap Report. In this video, we will be discussing the aftermath of UFC 258. So I'm not going to go too far into most of the card. I only touched on the main event, Usman vs. Burns, in my prediction video. So I think for this video, I'm just going to focus on that. But I will say, it's nice to see Kevin Gastelum get back in the win column. He got a decision win, I think he was 3 straight losses, so it's nice to see someone, get off that downward trajectory. And then Alexa Grasso, she looked pretty good. Granted, I think Barber was in part, causing that. She was just throwing like crazy and just asking for Grasso to counter strike her. So getting to the main event, Kamaru Usman versus Gilbert Burns. Kamaru Usman won by a 3rd round TKO. So, I got the 3rd round TKO right, just not the right guy. But all in all, that was not what I expected in the sense of the first round did follow. I mean, the game plan that Burns put out was what I expected, He pressured a lot. He took the center of the cage. He offered the ground game to Usman when, he was just sitting on his back. Granted, I think that he kind of made a mistake there. And Usman, wow, he has developed so much as a striker. At least I think that he looks well above what he had looked before in some previous fights. Working with Trevor Whitman has improved his striking game a ton. But yeah, if we're just going to look at it straightforward, you got to feel bad for Burns a little bit because he rocked Usman, 30 seconds in with what was it, overhand, right? I think. I'm not sure off the top of my head. And then he had a major, just a powerful kick. And for both of those, there's not a lot of guys in the division who are going to take those hits. You got to give props to both guys because no one's put Usman in that level of danger before. I guess you could say maybe Covington, but I don't really think so. Covington had him on points and he was getting the better of him with exchanges in their fight, but I think that this was the closest Usman's been to being finished before. But his chin is just next level. He took shots, not very many guys are taking those shots at welterweight, and then, Burns used to fight at lightweight. Who could have taken those shots at lightweight? I think that, he's kind of referenced it in some of his media stuff after the fight, Burns, that, he might have had a bit of an adrenaline dump in that first round, and I think it kind of played into the later rounds. From there on, Usman kind of took over as second round and forward. I think he also dropped Burns with an overhand right, and then he dropped him, I think, multiple times with his jab, and that jab was insane. I think people are going to discredit Burns' chin a little bit because of that, but I think it's more of that jab was just so fast, it just caught him off guard, honestly. That was just something else, man. I think if this level of striking, if Usman had this level of striking when he fought Covington, I don't think Covington makes it out the 3rd round either. Usman is developed, granted, he was a pretty solid fighter all over the place anyway, but now he's really brought in that striking. He is a true just general threat, right? Because that was the game plan for some guys in the sense of, going to the ground's not going to do much, but striking isn't necessarily his best standpoint, right? So when you got someone like Burns and you got someone like Covington who could fight with him on the ground, that was almost an advantage because then they're able to take advantage of him standing and not being as good of a striker. But with this improved striking, even now striking is not going to be a great place to fight Usman at necessarily if he can take big shots like he did. Technically, I guess it didn't count as a knockdown, but really that's like the first knockdown he's ever had. I think, as I said, statistically they didn't count it as one, but whatever. But yeah, no, that fight was something. And hopefully, he was saying, give me the respect I deserve. And it's a fair point, he gets overlooked. People call him a bit of a boring fighter and things like that, but he put on the show. And I think that part of it is he referenced this in some of his media before the fight, that if you don't push him to that level, he's not going to finish you. I think that you gotta, I think you really have to push Usman to the danger level to get him to finish you. Otherwise, he's just going to dominate you and win on points. But I think that's a testament to what Burns did to him, that he had to, to finish him. I think he said, I don't remember how he put it, if he did his homework right and he has to pull the Savage or whatever. I think that's what Usman said, something like that. But point being, to get Usman to finish you, that says something about you as a fighter as well. I still think that Burns is the best chance of someone to beat him in this division, despite this loss. But I mean, if you're looking at it now, where does Usman go from here? He just he passed GSP, George St. Pierre, for the welterweight record for most consecutive wins in the division, I believe at 14. I think GSP was at 13 now, Usman's at 14, and he's 2 away from Anderson Silva for the longest win streak in UFC history ever. So that's insane. He's at 4 title defenses now, so he's tied, I believe, both Robbie Lawler and Tyron Woodley. I might be wrong on the Lawler one, you know? So I think there's only 2 guys with more defenses than him in the division now, technically, and that'd be Matt Hughes and George St. Pierre. So he's on his way to being one of the, you could make the argument already that he's one of the top welterweights of all time, but he's on his way to being one of the greatest welterweights of all time if he keeps going at this rate, especially as the improvements that he's made as a fighter on top of already being a really good fighter. You know, that's one thing I thought about after I'd put out that, and hopefully it doesn't sound like too much 2020 hindsight, but it was funny. I don't know if I said anything. I cut it out actually of the video because I was going to put in at the end of the video, I don't know if I'm giving Usman enough credit in the sense of, you know, I feel like I should have talked him up a little more in the video, and I didn't. And it's like, yeah, I really should have. Looking at where we go from here, Usman called out Masvidal, and I guess you can make that fight if Usman really wants it. They're saying maybe do that with the Ultimate Fighter, which could be interesting. So he wants the Masvidal fight. I think it's interesting because he might try and stand with Masvidal. It sounds like he wants to finish Masvidal. And granted, I get it because he's saying, oh, everyone's giving Masvidal credit for taking the fight on 6 days notice, but it also took something from Kamaru to be able to, you know, turn around, change his game plan, you know, continue the weight cut that he might have. I think he said he had already stopped. He had stopped doing the weight cut because he didn't, you know, have to fight anymore, and then he had to get right back on it. So I'd be really interested to see a second fight between them, just for the fact that I think Usman might finish him. That would be interesting to see. It sounds like he's really set on making a lasting legacy in this division and in the UFC in general. Another direction you could look is Wonderboy, Stephen Thompson. He's the highest ranked guy that Usman hasn't fought yet, and that's number 5, which says something about Usman, right? He beat the number 1 contender, number 1 ranked Gilbert Burns. He beat number 2 Colby Covington. He beat number 3 Leon Edwards. Granted, that was before he was a champion, so that one has a little more merit for a rematch. He beat number 4 Jorge Masvidal. He hasn't fought number 5 Stephen Thompson. He hasn't fought number 6 Michael Chiesa. He's beat number 7 Tyron Woodley. He's beat number 8 Damian Maia, and then you have, I believe, 9 and 10. I don't think he's fought either Neil Magny or Vicente Luque. There's not a ton of guys that he hasn't beaten already either in the division. Maybe you put Wonderboy against one of the top 4. It's weird, right? In this division, it seems like everyone's 1 fight away from being at a title shot. Burns is going to need probably 2 wins to get back in that title shot because, Covington's 1 away. He had just lost, so he got his win back. So Burns is probably 2 fights away, and he's going to fight probably 2 top 5 guys. Covington's 1 away because he beat Woodley already. Leon Edwards, he's on an 8-fight win streak. He had beat Dos Anjos when he was a top 5 fighter. So Leon Edwards is 1 away. Masvidal, you can make the argument that with Burns, right? They're 2 away. But since Usman wants him, at least for him, he has that argument of, oh, well, he wants me, so I can fight right away. So yeah, I guess at least what I would do in the division is Covington Edwards. That one gets a title fight, and then you do Masvidal Stephen Thompson. Assuming Thompson wins, or you can do Thompson against Burns. But I'd say get him one top 5 win, and then he gets a title shot. But you do want to try to push him up a bit because he's one of the guys who Usman hasn't beat yet. So at least that's a fresh contender, right? In a sense. And yeah, for Burns, you really could have him fight any of these top 5 guys. You could have him fight Covington, you could have him fight Edwards, you could have him fight Masvidal or Thompson. Any of these guys, really. The thing I think is he'd probably need 2 wins to get back unless he does something crazy, right? He first round KOs somebody. Then yeah, maybe you give him a title shot again. Alright boys, this is about to be the end of the video. If you made it this far, I really appreciate that. Let me know what you think of the fight. Granted, this is a bit late, but let me know what you thought of the fight, Usman, Burns, where the division's going. Any thoughts on what I said? Go ahead and leave a like and subscribe and all that if you enjoyed. And have a good one, y'all. Oh, and one last thing. UFC 259 prediction video coming either tomorrow, Friday, or Saturday.